morning, YouTube, and happy Labor Day. Hope everybody's doing well. We're dealing with that heat wave right now, and it's almost 90 degrees, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's supposed to be a high of 114 today. I'm out today riding, one, because it's good for me, good way to clear the mind and just to process things. But also I'm debating whether I should continue to own the Tenere 700. And this is a tough decision. You know, everybody talks on the internet about the unicorn bike. And I just want to say there's no such thing. You know, I'm pretty fortunate to own multiple motorcycles. And I'm thankful that I have different bikes, because each bike has a purpose. You know, my trials bike, it makes me a better rider. It also allows me to ride more technical than I ever could and learn skills that are hard to learn on bigger motorcycles with that bike. Then I've got my enduro bikes, and those are great for exploring and doing the trails and all that. And then I got this T7, and I bought this bike because I do want to explore and do adventure and tour. But my big concern is its weight. I mean, this bike is pretty amazing. It does a lot of things very well. It's a very awesome road bike. The motor on the T7 is just really awesome. It's just such a mellow, torquey motor, very linear, really easy to ride. So there's a lot of things I really like about this bike. But the thing I don't like about this bike is the weight. Going back to the unicorn, you know, everybody's unicorn is going to be different. Everybody's idea of adventure is going to be different. You know, for me, I want to do BDRs. And more than likely, I'm going to be doing them solo. And I don't want to have to go around the advanced sections because the bike I have can get me in trouble. And that's kind of where I'm at. Everybody has these dreams of having one bike that you can leave from your garage, go have an epic journey, and then come home. And these bikes are close to that. I mean, they're really pretty darn amazing. However, these are not dirt bikes. In my opinion, these are off-road. These are touring bikes that can do off-road pretty darn well. And you know, I think one of the problems is the manufacturers put excellent riders on these bikes. Toby Price, Full Terrace, you name it. And we believe, wow, look what they're doing on that motorcycle, right? Look where they're at with that motorcycle. But the fact of the matter is we're not like them. I mean, we are mortal. And I think it's very important for us to kind of accept that. Now, going back to the unicorn, I think you got to ask yourself first, what am I going to be doing with my motorcycle? How am I going to ride it, and who am I going to be with? So I want to ride BDRs, I want to explore, I want to ride kind of whatever I want to ride off-road as much as possible. And I think to do that, I have to be willing to make compromises. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I'm not totally convinced that I want to sell this yet, but I'm starting to put money into it to get it off-road worthy. And you have to do a few things to this bike. I mean, it needs a skid plate. I would say it needs a seat if you're going to go long distances. You know, the bar guards, the crash bars, the luggage racks, the exhaust pipe issue, you got to deal with that. You know, and I've been spending a lot of money to get this thing outfitted, and I've got pretty much everything I need now to do it, less tires, which it needs tires if you're going to ride it off-road. These tires will get you in trouble off-road. So it's starting to become a rabbit hole a bit. And, you know, I own a truck, and part of me feels like I should be driving to the areas that I want to explore, and then finding places that you can park it overnight or for a few days. I know Rocky Mountain ATV has offered their parking lot for people that want to do adventures in Nevada, and I'm sure there's hotels that you could go to, and if you stay the night there, coming and going, they'll let you park in their parking lot. So there's ways to logistically get the vehicle there. And really what we're talking about with these big bikes is the highway miles that it takes to get to those locations. But, you know, I'm really thinking about it'd be better just to network and throw your bike in the truck and then get as close as you can to the area and then ride it from there. And then on the way home, you get to drive in your vehicle with a windshield. Comfort, you got a shower, you're in comfortable clothes, and you're not taking the risk on the highway, because the other issue that I've been thinking about a lot is I don't really like riding in the metropolitan areas. I mean, this is pretty laid back, but I'm talking like the busy freeways, the big cities, all that stuff. I mean, that's where you're going to get killed and ran over. And so for me, I actually prefer driving to the areas that I want to ride. The bikes that I'm considering instead of this bike is the Husky 701 or the KTM 690. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure which generation I would get. The Husky 701, I believe there's only one choice, and that bike would be ride-by-wire. But with the 690 Enduro, if you get an 18 or older, you can get that with a throttle cable, and get it for a pretty good price too. So I'm not totally sure yet. I know it would compromise some comfort, but boy, its wet weight is like 100 pounds lighter than the Tenere, and those bikes carry their weight awfully low. They've got amazing engines, pretty good service intervals. Yeah, they got their quirks, but every motorcycle has its quirks. The T7 is not an exception. Its plastics are made out of ABS. You wreck this thing, it's like wrecking a car. The other thing is that exhaust pipe is in such a crappy location with that hanger that you know, you're always going to be stressing about damaging this bike's frame. This bike has a lot of fasteners. When you start digging into it, it's kind of hard to get into areas. For one thing, the spark plug on this bike, getting to that is an event. And I don't know, part of me feels like I wish it was more like a dirt bike. The motor is amazing on this bike. I mean, I just came from like 15 miles an hour in 4th gear. So I don't want to say this bike's not awesome. I think this bike's a great road bike. Getting to your location, this is an amazing bike and a great choice. But once you're there, is this bike still amazing and still the right choice? To be honest with you, I've been regretting not getting an 890 Adventure R a lot more lately. Riding my enduro bikes, riding my KTMs, and just knowing how well they're built. I mean, the 890 Adventure R is a large dirt bike. It needs no money put into it right off the showroom floor. Probably bark guards would be a good idea, maybe a little extra skid plate protection, but it really doesn't need anything. The Tenere 700 needs a ton of stuff. Yeah, it's still a huge value. I mean, I've still saved quite a bit of money, even after putting the accessories on it. However, you know, it's never going to be a KTM 890 Venture R. And, you know, the 890's controls and everything are just so amazing, and its center of gravity is just awesome. Big reasons I'm thinking about selling it too is economics. You know, I've got a lot of the stuff that I bought that hasn't been bolted on that can be returned, so I can get my money back on that. And the market for the T7 is pretty hot right now. There's not a lot available and people want them, so I could get a lot of my money back. Not everything, but I could get quite a bit. I'm not totally convinced I want to sell it because it is such a nice road bike. I just don't want to be disappointed when I get to a place that I want to have the adventure on and wonder why I'm on this. You know, I think the Tenere 700 suspension's okay. You know, I've tried adjusting the settings to increase the compression and the rebound, kind of help with it, help with the way it's settled. But then it gets kind of harsh on the street. So when you set this thing up for off-road, you start to deal with the fact that on the street it's kind of not as plush as it was. And I'm really tempted to just put it back to stock settings or close to it. Right now I'm more like, I think I'm like 9 or 10 in the front on compression and 11 or so on the rebound. And in the back I believe I'm 11 on the rebound and about 8 on the compression, I think, somewhere in there. But, you know, all in all, it's a pretty good bike. I do like its simplicity, and I love its motor. It really is like about as effortless of a motor as you could ask for. I don't like its seat. My nuts get numb on this bike. I get to where after about, I don't know, not that long. In fact, it's starting to happen now, and I've been riding for what, 20 minutes? They get pretty numb to the point where I can't feel them. And that's not necessarily a happy thing. Also, the brakes on this bike, they're okay. You really do have to be concentrating when you're really braking hard on this bike. And the other thing I would say, the gearbox is kind of clunky. If you don't shift while it's moving, let's say like just there I was braking hard and I was like in 5th or 6th gear and I was trying to downshift to get down to the gear I need, sometimes it won't go down. Sometimes it won't shift down. And I don't know if that's a false neutral or whatever, but it's a real thing. So you have to be more concentrated on this bike. I will tell you with the KTM, I could fault nothing on the controls. That bike was tremendous. Its controls were absolutely just fabulous. Now I also want to say I haven't taken this bike off-road yet, like really at all. I've been on some good road trips with it. I've done 200-mile days, 250-mile days on it, mountains, twisties, and this bike does back roads really well. It's a great touring bike. But I haven't taken it off-road yet because I haven't got everything bolted on it yet, and honestly I don't want to drop it because it'll be harder to sell with the more scratches it has. So this is why I'm having this conversation. I'm not totally convinced I want to sell it, but I'm not absolutely sure I want to keep it. It's a good bike. I will say that the clutch on this bike doesn't have a lot of modulation. I have the Campbell clutch on it right now, and I think I do like it because it kind of makes it have a little bit more friction zone, but it's not a lot. This bike doesn't have a modulating clutch like an off-road bike, or like a KTM. It's a little bit more on and off. And I don't know, off-road, that bothers me a bit, because I tend to like to feather the clutch when I'm riding a motorcycle, and I don't feel like the Tenere has that. It's not really designed for that. It's more like just let the clutch out and trust the motor, and then if you really need to feather the clutch, but don't feather the clutch as part of your riding style. It doesn't really like it. At least that's what I've observed. The wind protection on this bike's pretty good. I haven't ridden a KTM 890 Adventure R with the standard windshield and with one of these extensions like this Puig here. But the Tenere with the Puig is pretty good. It actually is pretty nice on the highway. Bike is a great road bike. However, these are the stock tires, and these stock tires are great street tires. That's why they're Pirelli STR Street. If I'm going to keep this, I'm probably going to go with the Motaz Adventure Rallies, or maybe the Pirelli Scorpions, like the actual off-road Scorpions. But I think I'm going to go with the Motaz because I think they'll last longer and probably be a little bit better on the street. But I don't know, like I said, this is all about money, and I'm actually trying to simplify my system as I can. The other thing is when you start to own too many motorcycles, it becomes kind of a burden because you got to take care of them. And it gets to where, you know, you're neglecting some because you're riding others. And that's another thing that I'm thinking about a lot. You know, even my 350, I'm wondering if my 350 is too close to my 300. Because I haven't been riding my 300, and part of me is like, man, go ride your 300. And that's why I was thinking, well, maybe I should just get a 500 EXC and make that my adventure bike. Or maybe just get a 697-1 and then let the trail bike be the 300. Like I said, I'm pretty fortunate to have multiple motorcycles. And you know, this is definitely a first world problem. Breaking in this motorcycle the right way, and I can tell you as this motor starts to loosen up, it's getting even better. It really is an amazing motor. I wish this bike weighed, I don't know, if I had my wishes, 100 pounds less and a lower fuel tank. There you go with the shifting. It gets a little weird as you slow down. You got to shift as you slow down. Part of that's just, you know, knowing the motorcycle and doing what the motorcycle wants. So I will tell you, my testicles are already starting to get a little numb. It's just a weird situation, and I'm a short guy, so I don't get the opportunity to sit too far back because of my arm length. So I sit pretty much up on the tank. So I don't know, a taller person might not have such an issue with this bike. So I don't have a whole lot to say. It's been a while since I've made a video. This has really been on my mind a lot. You know, the question is light right? And if so, is the Tenere considered actually light? I would say this motorcycle is not light. This is a big motorcycle. No, it's not a GSA. but it's still a heavy bike, and I think, you know, I think it's very important to understand that. And the other reason we're having this conversation is the value to me is that I sell it now, I can get quite a bit of money back between the returns of some items that I won't need and what this market value is for this bike used, especially with the things I have bolted on it. There isn't a bike with better value than the Tenere 700. That's just a fact. But you just got to remember that it has its limits. And that's what I'm processing right now is what do I want to do and where do I want to go? And how much time do I have? I mean, that's the other fact is I just don't have a crap load of time. And I don't have a ton of space. I live in a small house with a small garage. So that's about all I really have to say, I think, today. Just this has been on my mind a lot, and getting out on the bike has actually been helpful because I don't want you guys to think I don't like this motorcycle. I do. A lot of it is having to do with how many motorcycles does a person need, and then which ones actually really fit the style of riding that you're trying to do. And just the fact of the matter is there's no perfect motorcycle. Every motorcycle has its pros and cons, and you just got to ask yourself, what are you looking for in a bike? It's already 100 degrees out here, man. Well, I know you got to get out, do something on Labor Day.
Yep.
Yep. Well, have a great day, man. Take care.